It has been a little while since I have filmed a book haul, and I am due up for it. In the last month, I have sold a lot of books, and I have bought a lot of books, but I technically have less books now than I did at the beginning of the year, so that is progress. I got way too much store credit at Recycled Books, and I had a gift card, so I bought quite a few things, and some of these are really cool. So let's get right into it. I'm going to try to show off the first book while I hold this little goblin. Let's see how it goes. This first book is Burn Witch Burn and Creep Shadow Creep all in one. My wife was so excited to find it. We have not seen a copy in person up until that one. I have a copy of Creep Shadow Creep, but Burn Witch Burn is very hard to find. That's a mass market paperback, but that's okay. We've just really wanted a physical copy. It's one of our favorite horror novels, and I'm just so glad that I finally have a physical copy. Burn Witch Burn is awesome. Abraham Merritt was cooking when he wrote that thing in the 1920s. It is just some really good vintage horror about a witch that traps people's souls inside these 11-inch tall lifelike dolls and uses them to kill people. Pretty crazy. It's just a really good book, and I think anyone that wants to check it out, if you like audio, you can actually listen to it for free on YouTube. A makeup artist that won an Academy Award for Wrath of Khan narrates it on YouTube. It's the same version you get on Audible, but the YouTube version's broken up into chunks, and it's got an intro and an outro, which kind of slows things down, but it's very good. So you can check it out for free if you really want to give it a try. I highly recommend it. This dude won't go away. Bro, I need to film a video. I can't do it with you here. I'm going to set you down now, okay? So this next one is Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. This is the Glen Cook Literature Library version, and I don't think that it's abridged. It doesn't say it anywhere, and that was my biggest worry when I was picking this up because it's pretty thin, but this is a version that you get at schools and stuff. See, it's got the old checkout stuff. I really like it because it's got this very durable binding. It's gonna last forever. It has critical essays in the back of it, and I really like that. One of my favorite things is books about books, and so this is the book with stuff about the book in the back. I'm really hoping it's not abridged. I checked and it doesn't seem like it is, but who knows. I got another one of those in here too. I'm gonna start collecting them every time I see them. They're just too cool to pass up. This next bad boy I've been searching for a long time. I am a big fan of D&D 4th edition, and I really like collecting the books, and this is Heroes of Shadow. This is the first time I've seen a copy in person, so I had to pick it up, and it was also the same price as I would have paid on eBay, but this one I actually get to see the condition. I don't have to pay shipping, all that. This lets you play as a vampire. It's got wizard abilities and stuff like that. I also like that this is part of the Post Essentials collection, so it's balanced a little more toward the late D&D 4th edition design practices, which is good because that means I don't have to modify anything. I like all of 4E. I don't care if it's the beginning that needs a lot of errata or the end with the essentials where everything's been streamlined. It's all fun, but this just makes things a little easier when it comes to the combat math kind of thing. Not to say you have to do a bunch. I do some super simple math when it comes to early 4E stuff. I cut the hit points of the monster in half, and then they get +1 to hit and +1 damage for each level they are, because the monsters were way too squishy and didn't deal a lot of damage early on, and it just made combat take forever. And I really enjoy running very lethal games. I don't get a lot of player deaths because my players work smart and I'm not unfair. So it usually just is a running on the razor's edge kind of thing when combat happens. Plus, my players aren't stupid enough to get into fights that they have no chance of winning. I obviously telegraph stuff like that. I'm not going to trick them into dying. But with 4E, I really like the heavy emphasis on fighting smart and working as a team. It's the same thing I like about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. The math is almost too tight in PF2, but that's okay. It's still fun to play, and the math being that tight allows me to set aside all those mental calculations I had to do in other editions. But 4E is just fun, and I want to start running it again, and Heroes of Shadow is a really cool addition to my collection. If anyone ever wants to see my entire collection, let me know. Maybe I can live stream it or make a quick video. Most of it's going to be, hey, look, cool covers. 4E good, but I don't know. This is mostly a literary reading channel, but I've also made a tabletop RPG video that's one of my more popular videos, so who knows? The same goes for my other tabletop RPG collections. If I just need to make a tabletop RPG collection video, maybe I'll do that. It'd be fun. I am kind of a fan of Philip Jose Farmer. I have read the entire Riverworld series. The second half of it is awful, but I really like the first 2 books, and I used to own 2 bind-ups of the entire series, but they were affiliated with the Sci-Fi Channel TV show, so on the front front. The cover was just stupid and it said, watch on Sci-Fi channel, blah, blah, blah. And I hate movie and TV show tie-in books. Can't stand them. So I just refuse to own them if it is at all possible to get them without the tie-ins. And I found To Your Scattered Bodies Go, a book club edition hardcover, not in the best shape, but definitely readable. And I really like this book. The whole Riverworld series is very interesting. It starts with everyone waking up mostly naked with a little box on this planet that is just a winding river that covers the entire planet with like steep mountains you can't traverse to get to the other side where another part of the river is. You have to go down the river or follow the riverbank. There are forests and stuff, but once you dig down a certain depth, it's like artificial. It's really interesting. And the first book is people trying to explore what is happening and figure out why they're there. In the second book, you follow Mark Twain as a POV character as he builds a riverboat, which is cool. And I really enjoyed those, but it just gets weird and not good the further you get into the series. So I want to at least collect the first two in cool vintage editions. So I was really happy I picked that up. Speaking of cool vintage science fiction, I got Starlight, the great short fiction of Alfred Bester. I really like Alfred Bester's writing. The Demolished Man and My Star's the Destination are some of my favorite older science fiction. And I think that based on the way he wrote those, he will really shine in short fiction. Like The Demolished Man is shorter than a novel. It's a novel, but man, is it a short book. So I can't wait to see if he has that same powerful writing in his short fiction. So I have read a lot of Richard K. Morgan's cyberpunk stuff. Like it was like a TV show as well. And there's a lot of interesting concepts. And I like the way he writes Takeshi Kovacs, the main character. So I picked up a first edition, first printing of The Steel Remains, his fantasy novel. Based on what little I know about it, it seems really interesting, but beyond the few little teasers in the flaps of the dust jacket, I don't know a lot about it, and I don't want to. I opened it and just skimmed with how it was written, and I like the writing style. So I'm looking forward to getting into this. I just can't explain too much about it because I like going into books blind. So if someone says, hey, you'll like this book, it's about this thing and this thing, and I'm like, okay, that's all you need to say. I'll give it a read. I don't have to know what is going on. Going into books with no knowledge is fun. So that's what I'm going to do with The Steel Remains. Now, it may come as a shock to some of you, but I really like Glen Cook, and I found a first edition of Glen Cook, The Tower of Fear. This is not a first printing. I'm kind of surprised that this got a second printing. This book is from 1989, and it is just a standalone fantasy novel that takes place in a fantasy equivalent of Roman-occupied Jerusalem. You follow these characters that were on the side that lost and are now being occupied by this external empire. It's good, but not amazing, and I had problems with it. I don't know if it was like me at the time or what. The book reads like a pulp historical novel much more than it does a late 80s fantasy novel. I want to give it another try, and I think that getting this really cool copy is a good way of diving back into it. I did audio the first time I read it, and I think this time I will read it eyes on paper when I finally get around to it. There's a lot of other Glen Cook that I want to reread before I get to something like The Tower of Fear. I just really like that copy, and I'm glad I finally got a good one for my collection that's up over there out of frame. And we all know that the Thrawn trilogy is some of the best Star Wars Expanded Universe stuff ever written, and I'm here to say I completed my first edition hardcover collection. This is like a later printing, like way later. Can't believe how many times this hardcover's been reprinted, but man, I love Heir to the Empire, and I'm so glad I finally have a beautiful hardcover. And then this Dark Force Rising is a first edition, first printing, so that's pretty awesome. I really want to read these again. I think they need to be bumped to the top of my list of rereads for Star Wars Expanded Universe. I say that, but I might start whichever Expanded Universe hardcover I own that starts the closest to the Battle of Yavin. So whatever that's called, it's like BBY or something when you're looking at the super nerdy timeline. I have way too much Expanded Universe knowledge because when I was in high school, I took a web mastery class where our teacher only knew computer programming. And so we just sat there and made websites. And by made websites, I mean I read Wikipedia and read Star Wars Expanded Universe novels and won Age of Empire 2 tournaments that we played against each other because some kid managed to install it on the server network for my high school. It was awesome. But yeah, I think that was the best use of my time for web design because, who does web design now? That's like a dead thing. It's not a fundamental part of the internet. A while back, I almost picked up a very ratty trade paperback of this because I needed a copy. I'm glad I didn't because I got Blood and Thunder, The Life and Art of Robert E. Howard by Mark Finn in this beautiful hardcover. I'm just so excited to finally have a good copy. This is a first printing. Didn't realize that until I just opened it. Holy cow. I have quite a few Robert E. Howard biographies and I need to get to reading them because it's just tragic what happened to him. But also I want to know more about him as an artist while I explore more of his art. Plus I got to hit that arbitrary 20% nonfiction for the year. So far it is going poorly. NESFA Press is one of the best publishers around for science fiction. And so I just don't say no when I see their books. I take that back. There's like 2 or 3 books at Recycled where every time my wife points them out, she's like, those are in NESFA Press. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want those. I can't remember what it is. But anyways, I got The Rediscovery of Man, the complete short science fiction of Cordwainer Smith. Awesome tome of a book. Just so good. And I just really enjoy everything that I bought from NESFA Press. I have not read Cordwainer Smith, which is one of the reasons why I got that, because I am now addicted to short fiction. I didn't read short fiction until about 2.5 years ago, and now I read a lot of short fiction, and it's good. It's fun. Doesn't help me stat pad my books read for the year, but who cares? Imagine what my book count would be if I just abandoned short fiction so that I could just boost my numbers. But why would I do that? I'm not here to boost the numbers. I'm here to enjoy reading. There's a YouTuber I like to watch. His name is Mr. Beat, and he makes a lot of political science videos and U.S. history stuff. He used to be a teacher. Now he's a full-time YouTuber. He's a really cool guy. I like his videos, and he did a video about Truman. He cited this book a lot. This is a really good hardcover copy. I'm so glad I found it because the trade paperbacks don't last, because you can see the stripes in here. Those are like glossy photographs, and anytime you've got glossy photos like that pressed into a trade paperback, the spine just breaks. So I'm glad I found this big old chunky boy. I really want to read it. He said that it is the definitive biography of Truman, and if you're only going to read one, read that one. So I will give it a try. I like U.S. history, especially early Cold War era stuff, and Truman just coming across as very chill also helps. I'm looking forward to reading that. I almost didn't buy this bad boy because it doesn't match all my other books, and while I'm not super neurotic about it, I like when a whole set matches, and this kind of matches. I got Surface Detail by Ian M. Banks, and my trade paperbacks look like this, but this is a hardcover. First edition, first printing, which is cool. I might end up trading this in for the trade paperback version because all the other ones I have are in trade paperback. And while I really like these covers and these spines, I want them in trade paperback. That's how I picture them in my mind. And so we'll see if I keep this. Maybe if I find a few more of the hardcovers, I'll switch to collecting hardcovers only. We'll see. I love the culture. I have been taking my time reading them, which is weird for me because usually I just binge whatever I really enjoy, but there aren't very many of them. I'm not getting any more, and it makes me sad when I think about that. So I'm taking my sweet time with the culture. I talked about that rare Cliff Notes version of Coriolanus not too long ago, and I wanted a physical copy of Coriolanus, and I finally got one. This one's got some highlighting in it and stuff, but it was relatively cheap, and I just really wanted a physical copy because when I am reading something like Shakespeare, I tend to take notes so that I can figure out what is going on, and I can't do that in bed. So I was reading this on my e-reader before bed, but I kept stopping and just thinking about it and trying to take mental notes that I should have been writing down. So I'm glad I got a physical copy for when I sit down and do like a deep reading of it. I mentioned before that I like Cliff Notes and stuff because I'm not using it to read a book and just pretend I've read it. I like using it as a refresher, and I like the questions and, talking points and stuff that get put in the back of each one. I got a copy of the Odyssey Spark Notes. I think I already have the Odyssey Cliff Notes. I don't remember, but this is good to have, especially for like 50 cents. And I got a copy of The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck Cliff Notes. This is really cool because I really enjoyed that book, and having something like this is just great. Same goes for this Moby Dick Cliff's Notes. And I am going to just put each one of these by my physical copy of the books. It's just cool to have it right next to it. Same goes for if I ever take notes while I'm reading something, I put the notebook next to the book. I don't use a whole notebook for one book. That would be incredibly pretentious. Actually, there's a dude that I used to listen to on a podcast that talked about he would buy one of those little moleskin bougie notebook notebooks, and he would use it to take notes for a book he was reading, and then he just puts it next to that book and goes and buys another. And I'm like, bro, that's a lot of money. Those things are like $18. I would be spending like $2,000 a year if every book I read, I took notes in a little moleskin and then put it next to the book. That's crazy. That guy was real weird. I remember I was already getting annoyed by him, and then the whole okay boomer thing started, and it triggered him to death. It was so funny. He threw a fit on the podcast I was listening to because someone had called him a boomer, and he's like 49 years old or something. He threw a temper tantrum on the podcast about it after it had happened, and I was like, hey, thanks for reminding me to unsubscribe. Anyways, what was I talking about? Oh, I picked up a Glen Cook Literature Library edition of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Man, I hope these aren't abridged. I'd hate to have bought them for very cheap and then have to immediately get rid of them. I don't think it is. I need to check again online. This has some cool essays in the back and just more related readings, and they're just cool, and they're super durable, great for someone that's trying to collect for a very long time. At my local half-price books, which a lot of people probably have the same thing at their local bookstore, there's like the staff picks, and a lot of them are really weird at every bookstore. At my local half-price books, there's a couple of people that work there. We read the exact same books. We play the same tabletop RPGs. I've talked to them about it, and I saw this for $3. And it is Isaac Asimov Presents the Golden Years of Science Fiction Second Series, 28 Stories and Novellas, edited by Isaac Asimov and Martin H. Greenberg. So Martin H. Greenberg edited everything. I have a Frederick Brown book over there he edited. I probably own 20 books that he was an editor on for short fiction collections. It's really bizarre. I looked it up. He's got credits on like 1,800 anthologies or something. I want to make a deep dive video about him. There's just not a lot of info out there, so I'm gonna have to do a real deep internet dive before I can even start planning a video for that. Maybe it'll just be a showcase of some of the really good stuff he edited. This thing has some of the classic science fiction heavy hitters. Also, like almost all of the stories in here were owned by or were originally published by Street and Smith Publications. Okay, so here we've got, with multiple entries from some of these authors, Theodore Sturgeon, C.M. Kornbluth, Isaac Asimov, A. Van Vogt, Frederick Brown, Alfred Bester, Henry Kuttner, C.L. Moore, Lester Del Rey, Hal Clement, and the very last one is Donald A. Walheim, which should sound familiar if he was the one responsible for Daw Books, his initials. Really fascinating stuff. I am looking forward to that because it's a lot of really cool short fiction from some of the best in that time. Hey, look, another NESFA Press book, Works of Art, Selected Short Works of James Blish. I can't say no, especially when it is a science fiction author I want to read and I don't own anything by them. Always start with the NESFA Press. Hey, that's a first edition. That's cool. Didn't notice that when I bought it. So I picked up a lot of Dragon magazines, like vintage ones from the late 70s, early 80s, and we're just going to flip through them real quick. And most of them I got for the art, and I will read them before I frame them in some like UV protective acrylic to display somewhere in my house. I found some really cool picture frames that I can 3D print with brown filament, and it looks like wood, and it fits our whole maximalist framed picture aesthetic in our house. Really looking forward to doing that. I can even use a 3D modeler and put in the grooves for the acrylic glass so everything fits perfect. So I got Dragon number 58, and I really just got it because the art is gorgeous. I mean, you can't say no to Larry Elmore art. At least I think that's Larry Elmore. It might be, I can't remember his name, but it looks like Larry Elmore. Next, we've got Dragon number 63, art by Jay Warhola, I think, from 1982. This just screams OSR. I love it. I really can't wait to put these in frames. I just adore older fantasy art for these. That's one of the things that really sucks is modern publications just have like a graphic design as my hobby cover. And we used to get nice stuff like this. This is so goofy. It's like a kid building a mechanical dragon in his basement. His mom's freaking out. Now, the cool thing about this one, Dragon issue number 96, is it has a review of The Black Company by Glen Cook from Gary Gygax, who says that it is quintessential Dungeons and Dragons adventuring. He said that is what he thinks of when he thinks of being in a magical world like the D&D setting. So that's really cool. It also says a lot about how lethal Gary Gygax thought a game of Dungeons and Dragons should be. I really like this art, even though it's gully dwarves, which are not very politically correct nowadays. But Dragon number 102 by art by Dean Morrissey, 1985, just cool. Just want to frame them all. Everything just needs to be framed. Walls covered in art everywhere, so my ADHD-addled monkey brain can just look at something and be like, oh, that's cool. Like on this wall right off the frame that I'm pointing at. It's got all this like landscape art and stuff, and then there is a random framed piece of John Blanche art of a bunch of demons. My wife thinks it's funny to put it there. It used to be in with our family photos in the hallway. And this last one by Kevin Davies is Dragon number 110. We got ourselves a unicorn and a dead dude. Doesn't get much cooler than that. I can't wait to also just read these. And this one is the 10th anniversary issue with a mid-level AD&D adventure all about Elminster. While I don't like Elminster, hopefully the adventure is kind of cool. The Oxford History of the United States is like one of the best collections of books about the history of the US that I've read. I've skimmed a lot of them. I've read the one about the Gilded Age and the Progressive Era. I love it, and I'm slowly trying to collect all of them, and I just picked up a really cool copy of Freedom from Fear by David M. Kennedy, The American People in Depression and War, 1929 to 1945. Boy, he's thick, and I can't wait to read this. I'll probably listen to it, but I like having a physical copy that I can double back to and put in little post-it notes or acid-free adhesive little notes in here to remember places I want to reread. Yeah, I highly recommend the Oxford History of the United States collection. It's very good. The narration is good too, so if you are a big history nerd, you should definitely check it out. I got a couple left, and I had to double check my previous haul video to make sure I didn't already talk about them, because these have been sitting on my desk for a while, but it's been almost 2 months since I filmed a book haul. I got Janny Wirt's The Cycle of Fire complete in one volume. We got Storm Warden, Keeper of the Keys, and Shadowfane. This is really cool, and I want to read Janny Wirt's. And the problem is, To Ride Hell's Chasm hasn't worked for me the few times I've tried to read it, and the Wars of Light and Shadow didn't work for me at all. So I really hope that this will. I opened it and was just reading a couple of pages randomly, and I like the way it's written, so hopefully I can really get into this, because I don't want to give up on Janny Wirtz and her writing. There is some kid outside blowing a whistle constantly. I really hope it's not being picked up on the microphone. It was happening right after school let out, and I kept thinking, who is blowing that whistle? Is that a crossing guard or a teacher or something? No, it's been going on for 3 hours now. Now, last but not least, we have Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. This is a signed copy I found at my local half-price books. I'm pretty excited about it. I want to give that series a try as part of my reading more newer fantasy, like stuff published in the last 10 years. I've never read anything from Jay Kristoff, but I know a lot of people that really enjoy his writing, and I enjoy a lot of the same books as them, so I'm hoping it really works for me. Vampires are pretty cool. Post-apocalyptic settings, even cooler. So hopefully I have a good time with it. And that's it. That's a lot of books. Now, I don't think my collection is out of control, because all of these books are going to get put on shelves as soon as I'm done filming this. So I do have space for them, especially since I cleared out some stuff recently. I really like collecting books. It's ridiculous how fun it is. Just finding these things and looking through them and seeing the history of them. I didn't mention it, but in that Golden Age of Science Fiction book, there's a punch card for some computer from 50 years ago. I thought that's awesome. I love finding old plane tickets, old receipts, little scraps of notes in used books. That is one of the most fun things about used books, is the history of them, knowing that someone else also enjoyed them or hated it and sold it, and then I got a good deal on it. Either way, I'm happy. Let me know in the comments what you have been reading lately, or what you have bought lately. Have you read any of these? Just let me know. Thanks for watching, and with that, I'll see you next time.